So you've decided to sign up for Dial a Podcast? Fantastic, let's get started. You can start by choosing any of the green buttons that are located throughout the website. They usually say get your number, or you can jump over to the plans page. I'm going to start here and choose the entry plan for the purposes of this demo. We're going to click on get your number and then put in our email address and choose a password. Enter in the password again and answer the question, and then we'll say get started. This is going to send an email to the account that you entered where you will need to verify your email address. And this is the screen you're going to see once you click that link in the email. I'm going to go ahead and click confirm that this is my email address, and then we can start the setup process. You'll notice the progress bar across the top, and just by getting your account set up, we're halfway through. Next, we're going to confirm the plan that we want to leverage, and I'm going to leverage the entry plan, and then we'll enter in card details. And then we will say subscribe, and that gets us to about 70%. Next, we have the option to upload or add a podcast feed or an audio file. An audio file is going to be an actual file that you add from your computer, whereas the podcast feed is going to be an existing RSS feed from somewhere else. For the purposes of the demo, I'm going to use a podcast feed, and we have the ability to add the title, which I'm going to say my awesome podcast, and then enable multi-episode, which will allow your listeners to listen to up to the last 10 episodes of your show automatically. So we'll click to enable that, and then we're going to enter in the podcast feed. So we'll put in the podcast feed here and say add. Next, we have the ability to add in a dedicated call-in number, and you can add a local number with any of our plans absolutely free. You can add a toll-free number, or you can also add a secondary local number once we get through this step. So I'm going to add a local number, and because we're in the Seattle area, I'm going to use area code 206 for my search. And you'll see down here, we have the ability to choose from 5 different numbers, or we can say search again if we don't like any of those numbers and choose from a different batch. I'm gonna go ahead and choose this 944 number and say pick this number. Now we've successfully registered this 206 number, and we can go to the dashboard. Now on the dashboard, you'll see here this feed status has a green check mark, everything is good, but our episode status, it says it's still refreshing. So if we click into the awesome podcast and scroll down, you'll see here that we have statuses on each of the 10 episodes that are uploading. The first 2 are good. They have synced up. Everything is ready to go. The rest of them are refreshing. So if we come back to this page in just a minute, we will see that these should all be green. So for the time being, let's go back and look at the rest of the dashboard. And that this red X is saying, hey, something's wrong. It's just refreshing. So we'll give that a second. And you'll see here too, in this podcast dashboard, it tells us that we've used 0 of 250 minutes, which means nobody has called into our podcast yet. Obviously, we just added it, but that number will update regularly. We have our dedicated phone number down here. It's automatically tied to our podcast. We didn't have to take a second step there, but if you do choose to have a second number and or a second podcast, you would have the ability to add that number here. We have the authorized callers list, which allows us to choose who can call into our podcast. And we have an entire blog post and step-by-step guide on that if that's something you want or need to leverage. And then down here at the bottom, we have our subscription information where you can find out your next billing date, your current package. You can change your credit card information or cancel your membership if you ever need to. Now, if we go back up here and click on My Awesome Podcast, let's check the status here. All of our episode status is green. So if we cancel and go back, now we are seeing 2 green check marks, which is what we want to see. Once everything is good to go, you can go ahead and share your dedicated phone number and your code to allow your listeners to start listening to your podcast. And when you're done with your dashboard, your options to log out are right here. And you can always click on the person icon from the homepage to log back into your dashboard very easily. That's everything you need to know. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, help@dialapodcast.com. Thanks so much for being a user.